who I am. But you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're going to know who I am.
Okay.
Very.
Guys, welcome to Black Scout. Tonight, I want you to understand something loud and clear. You're not safe just because you're in the United States. You're not protected just because you've got a flag flying and there's fireworks in the sky. According to ICE, sleeper cells may already be in place. Weapons may already be positioned, and the enemy is no longer at the gate. They're across the street. They're eating at a diner near you, or they're watching your kids at the park. And while the sheep will be celebrating on 4th of July, the wolves will be sharpening their teeth. And I'm not calling you a sheep because you're celebrating. I'm talking to the sheep, the ones that are not paying attention. Now, I'm going to get to it in a moment, but just a little bit ago, and it's currently active right now at Idaho, there's some firefighters that were shot, some first responders shot, police shot by unknown. They're saying maybe 4 suspects at this point, dressed in camouflage. They've sent out board tack and so on. But I'm going to get into that in a moment from what I do know. But anyway, all of this is not some tinfoil hat theory or of a Telegram post, right? This is coming from Allie Bradley, a credible reporter, just interviewed ICE Director Todd Lyons, who confirmed the agency is actively monitoring the possibility of sleeper cells operating inside the U.S. ahead of Independence Day. Now, I'm going to play the clip here, but they're concerned enough to say it on camera. Okay, let me play it for you.
Sleeper cells, something of high concern and something that the ICE director should be concerned about, but they should also be confident in the Trump administration's efforts in keeping America safe. Now, when it comes to those Iranian nationals, we know that ICE has arrested at least 130 in just the last week. 670 are currently in ICE custody. You broke down some of those numbers as well. The ICE director, Todd Lyons, telling us, yes, there is cause for concern with these sleeper cells, with these known or suspected terrorists. Take a listen.
We're focusing on our current counter-terror mission that we've always had. Now, it just happens to be that obviously Iran's in the news right now, and we do have a large population of known and suspected terrorists that were led into this country under the last administration that ICE is focused on. They raise the threat level because they take it serious, because of the fact that we just don't know who's here. And that's the unfortunate part. I think the American public needs to be aware. They just need to be cautious, but they need to go
those sleeper cells
living their lives because they wake up in the greatest country every day.
Now, let me just pause that for a moment, and I agree. So a lot of people, you know, especially when they're like haters or whatever, talking to me, or maybe they're leftists, I don't know who they are, but they'll say things about not being paranoid. No one's paranoid. It's about being prepared and cognizant, right? So being prepared means you feel secure and you enjoy life. I enjoy life every day. Being prepared doesn't mean that you don't enjoy life. Being aware, being frosty of what's going on does not mean you don't enjoy life. Anyway, let's get back to this.
And with that being said, a lot of people are going to be celebrating our nation's independence, the greatest country on earth, right? We're going to be celebrating. Well, we asked the director just that. Is it safe? A lot of people are going to be congregating. Hundreds of thousands of people expected at some of these celebrations. And he said, yes, go live your life, do what you normally would do, but be vigilant, be cognizant of your surroundings. And he says, if you see something, Kelly, say something.
Yeah, extremely important to keep in mind. So, Allie, a lot of videos circulating that haven't necessarily told the full story, but assaults are up, we know, on agents. What is the morale like down there as they combat these assaults and misinformation at the same time?
Yeah, there's been a lot of that, a lot of misinformation coming out. We had one instance where a guy was being beaten on the ground, but the media didn't show that the man had a weed whacker and was wielding that towards agents and officers. Prior to those moments, he was
living their lives
on the ground. So there's a lot of this misinformation that we're having to sift.
So one thing I'll say is that this guy here, I saw that he's married to an American woman. He did serve in the Iranian army as a sniper. The wife came out and said he's a Trump-loving guy. I saw him wearing a shirt like in a gym, like a cutoff tee, and it said like don't stomp on my flag, the American flag or what have you. So I don't know. The wife said he's a very patriotic guy, loves Donald Trump, but who knows? Who knows? And she's an American.
Through and that ICE is dealing with. And you talk about those assaults being up. DHS says they're up over 500% since these protests and riots began across the nation. However, the director of ICE says morale has never been higher. Take a listen.
If we get out there and we show the American public exactly who we're going after, exactly the criminal threats that are in their neighborhoods and their communities, and that ICE is a viable law enforcement tool, that we're out there every day going after these public safety threats, I think that's key. I think that's key to letting the American public know. And if some media outlets don't pick it up, so be it. But we have to go ahead and counter that false narrative with the good of what we're doing. To the morale, I'd say it's never been higher. Sure, we have a lot more work than we ever had, but the men and women of ICE are sworn law enforcement officers that signed up to do a job. And, under this administration, they're allowed to do their job again.
On the ground, Kelly, we did also ask Director Lyons how many individuals they've arrested that have criminal convictions. He said 70% of the individuals that ICE has arrested have some sort of criminal history. Now, I asked him, Kelly, are these just individuals crossing the border and that's the criminality? He said no. These 70% of individuals have DUIs, they have theft, they have different kinds of criminal history that they are arresting. He says he is proud of that number, that 70%. The 30% are collaterals, people that are living with.
So 30% collateral, people that are just around or what have you, right? But anyhow, what you just saw means that this isn't paranoia. This is a national threat briefing dressed up as a casual interview. So the question isn't if something's going to happen. The question is, how ready are you when it does? Now, when we look at historical events, let's get tactical for a moment. Terror networks don't roll in with tanks. They roll in with time, patience, and the element of invisibility. That's what a sleeper cell is, a group of embedded operatives living under false identities, often for years until they're activated for a mission. You look at 9/11. It was executed by men who trained in U.S. flight school. Now, their origin of who they were working for is up for debate. But anyway, we also talk about ISIS cells in Europe use refugee routes to sneak into Paris and launch coordinated attacks. Hezbollah has been caught stockpiling explosives in London, and no one heard about it for years. Okay. So if you zoom out, since 2021, we had over 9 million illegal crossings into the U.S. Among them, at least 345 known terror suspects, according to the CBP, like the guy I showed at the beginning of the video. That guy was a known terror suspect. And, these are just the ones they've caught. If you were trying to plant a sleeper cell, what better way than to sneak through during that chaos? Wide open borders. There was no vetting. Cartel was smuggling smuggling pipelines. Some of these people had no ID, no background record, and they disappear into sanctuary cities. Many tossed their identifications before crossing the border. I'm sure you've seen the videos like I have. They would take out their stuff and then throw it down on the ground. And guess what? ICE at that time didn't deport them. They released them out into the population. You think that's an accident? No. Now, let's talk about what just hit the underground circuit. A post by someone known as Mr. Poole claims a classified military alert leaked that an EMP and bioweapon attack on U.S. soil was hours away from execution. It was allegedly stopped by the military. Okay. Now, again, I don't know how true this is, right? Let me be clear. This is not a confirmed fact, but I'm saying it's worth dissecting. Here's what it claimed. It claimed that sleeper cell agents were using encrypted communications traced back to Iran and Venezuela. EMP devices had already been smuggled into Dallas, Atlanta, and Chicago. Bioweapon elements were in transit. The plan was to hit major urban hubs during a holiday when mass crowds are distracted. What better time, right? Sound wild? Well, sure, you can think that. But then ICE steps up and confirms that sleeper cells, they have sleeper cell concerns at the same week. That's not nothing. I always say, where there's smoke, there's fire. So is it true? Don't know. It's not confirmed. However, during the same week, you're hearing them coming out in the media stating this. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Let's war game it, though. Picture this. July 4th, families gathered, security relaxed. A van detonates the EMP pulse near a grid hub. Cell towers drop, internet dies, power shuts down. There's mass confusion. First responders are jammed up. And then comes phase 2, a biological agent released in a soft target zone, maybe a train station, concert, or parade. You can't stop what you can't see. And that's what makes sleeper cells the perfect weapon, especially when our own government had the floodgates open for years with a lot of unvetted people from hostile countries, hostile towards America. Now, why does this keep happening? Because they benefit from the chaos. You lose electricity, food, and security. They then offer digital IDs, universal basic income, and total surveillance. It's the Cloward-Peven strategy on steroids. Overwhelm the system, collapse it, rebuild it under control. That's what this is. It's not just an invasion, it's planned destabilization. And what better time as a backup plan, because Donald Trump won the election. They were not expecting that. So now they have already prepared this, and they release the chaos to disrupt the next few years going into the election. Kind of like what happened in 2020. And if the bioweapon or EMP hits, your firearms, your food, your comms, and your mindset, that's all that's going to matter. Okay? Now, you have to be ready. Watch for unmarked vans loitering near grid infrastructure. You should be doing this junk every day, kind of like what's happening in Idaho right now. We'll talk about it in a minute. Individuals are photographing or mapping out locations. You can notice odd things. If you have not bought Gray Man 1 and 2, Volume 1 and 2, you need to do it. It's going to teach you how to identify all these things, disappear, and know all this stuff. You need to be training this stuff right freaking now. Also, be aware of people wearing clothing out of season. I see that junk all the time. They could be wearing some kind of biosuit concealment, right? Foreign nationals moving in coordinated groups. Unusual radio traffic or drone activity, or even wearing first responder uniforms. They may wave attack one after the other, overwhelming the site to cause mass terror. And if you think this is just about foreign operatives, check out what just happened in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho today. Firefighters responded to a brush fire on Canfield Mountain. Okay. So this is kind of like the similar thing I was going to even talk about. This just had popped up right before. Create an event, bring first responders in, right? They're trying to contain the blaze during this time. You see firefighters shootout. Firefighters and police injured in Idaho shooting ambush. Suspect starting blaze as bait, right? So they responded to the brush fire in Canfield Mountain. As they were trying to contain the blaze, gunfire erupted from the woods, right? So an ambush. According to the scanner audio, at least 4 firefighters were shot, possibly more, and there's even talk of officers being hit as well. The shooter was wearing camouflage, and they said possibly an AR, maybe shotgun. They don't know, but they're still at large at this moment. I'm going to play the audio for you.
Some law enforcement right now, there's an active shooter zone. They're shot. BC3's down, BC1's down. Everybody's shot up here. Law enforcement, code 3 now up here. We've got another Coeur d'Alene firefighter down. Needs help immediately. We need law enforcement immediately.
I copy another firefighter down. Continuing law enforcement. 2 battalion chiefs. 1 off. 1 firefighter down.
Guys, this isn't Kandahar. This isn't Baghdad. This is Idaho. We're seeing coordinated chaos, fires, then gunmen, then who knows what else. It's not hard to imagine this kind of event stacked and synchronized across America in sleeper cell scenario. And if you're in a city like Dallas, Atlanta, or Chicago, stay sharp, stay frosty. Avoid dense crowd zones unless armed and aware. This isn't about fear. It's about readiness, guys. Now, I want you to know that you have to always be observant of your surroundings. You see oddities, your gut tells you something, it probably means something, okay? Once I get more information about this situation here in Idaho, obviously I will get back on and let you know. I know very little, probably as you do as well. I mean, it's probably breaking at every minute. Maybe at this moment they're coming out with more. I would like to know who's involved in this and what their motive is. But anyway, this is Black Scout Survival, guys. We don't talk or we don't wait to be told. We see the signs and we act and prepare. ICE confirmed it. The border proves it. And even 10% of that intel is true, then this coming Friday might be the most vulnerable day in recent history. So here's what you do. Tighten your loadout, lock your home security, arm up, stay situationally aware, frosty, and start thinking in grids, comms, water, backup, power, extraction. Because if the lights go out and the signal dies, you are the security. You are the quick reaction force. You're the order, and you're the last line of defense. Drop a comment below, and always remember to stay frosty, stay strapped, and always stay dangerous.